Jinwoo Park sat at his desk, but he did not see the screen in front of him. The words on it had already burned themselves into his mind. Position eliminated. Effective immediately. His dream job was gone. For 2 years, he had worked at this sole design firm. He designed modern apartments and office buildings. He loved turning lines on a screen into places where people would live and work. Now it was over. The company said they had to cut costs. His department was let go. The office was quiet, too quiet. Usually, there was the sound of keyboards and people talking about projects. Now, there was only the soft hum of the air conditioner and the sound of other people packing boxes. No one looked at each other. Jinwoo's hands felt heavy as he opened a drawer. He took out a few things. A nice pen from his sister, Suji. A small, careful model of the Gyeongbokgung Palace that he had built from wood. It showed the beautiful old Korean roof lines. He had kept it on his desk for inspiration. A photo of him and Suji laughing at a food stall. These were the only personal things in his space. He put them into a small cardboard box. His work computer, his office chair, the fancy coffee mug with the company logo. None of that was his anymore. He was just a man with a box, leaving a building that no longer had a place for him. The train ride home to his Mapogu apartment felt longer than usual. He held the box on his lap. People around him looked at their phones, tired from their own workdays. Jinwoo stared out the window at the city he loved. All the buildings, all the lights. He had wanted to add his own mark to this skyline. Now, that dream felt very far away. His apartment was small and neat. He put the box down on his kitchen table. The silence here was different. It was his own silence. He should update his resume. He should call his contacts. He should do a lot of things. Instead, he just stood there. His phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with a picture of his sister, Suji. She was calling. He knew she would have wise, practical words. She was a nurse, always good in a crisis. But right now, he did not want practical words. He wanted to just feel the disappointment. He let the phone ring until it stopped. He walked to the large window that led to his small balcony. It was his favorite part of the apartment. He liked to look at the city lights at night. He slid the glass door open and stepped out. The evening air was cool. He leaned on the railing and looked down at the busy street, then up at the dark sky. He took a deep breath. That was when the lights went out. Not the city lights, but the light from the sky above him. A shadow fell over his balcony, deep and complete, like something very large had blocked out the stars. Jinwoo looked up, confused. Was it a cloud? But the night had been clear. It was not a cloud. It was a shape, a smooth, oval shape, darker than the night around it. It made no sound. It was about the size of a small car. It hovered just beyond his balcony railing, absolutely still. No engine noise, no roar, no light. Just a silent, dark presence. Jin was heart hammered against his ribs. His mind raced. A drone? A balloon? It was neither. The surface of the object seemed to drink in the light from the city below, making it hard to see clearly. It felt solid and real. Before he could move, a part of the oval's smooth surface shimmered. A seam appeared, and a doorway opened inward without a sound. A soft, warm, golden light spilled from the opening, painting his balcony in a new color. A figure appeared in the light. It was not a green monster or a robot. It was elderly. It was slightly shorter than Jinwoo and wrapped in a simple robe of a material that seemed to shift between gray and silver. The figure moved slowly, one careful step at a time, coming to the very edge of the opening. It had 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. But its skin had a soft, pearly quality, and subtle patterns, like faded constellations, moved slowly across its cheeks and hands. Its eyes were large and dark, like pools of deep water. They found Jinwoo's. In them, Jinwoo did not see danger or threat. He saw exhaustion. He saw deep, deep tiredness, and a flicker of confusion. The alien, it could be nothing else, tried to step onto the balcony. His foot caught on the edge. It stumbled forward with a small, surprised sound, more like a sigh than a word. Instinct took over. Jinwoo's fear was pushed aside by a simpler, older feeling. Someone needed help. He stepped forward quickly, his arms coming up. He didn't grab the alien, but he provided a support for it to steady itself. The being was light, almost fragile under the robe. It leaned on Jinwoo's arm for a second, then righted itself up close. Jinwoo could see the fine lines around its large eyes, the slight tremor in its three-fingered hand. This was not a conqueror. This was a lost, very old person. The alien looked at Jinwoo and made a series of soft, melodic sounds. A small device on its robe, like a brooch, flickered with a weak blue light. A flat, digital voice spoke, but the words were broken, cutting in and out. Apologies, malfunction, navigation failure. The voice glitched. Sought simple, shelter energy depletion. The alien, still holding Jinwoo's arm for balance, looked back at its small, silent vessel. The warm light inside was already growing dim. Then it looked around Jinwoo's balcony, at the single chair and the small potted plant, and finally back at Jinwoo's face. Its large eyes held a question, and a profound, simple need. Jinwoo stood in the cool night air, the strange craft hovering behind his guest. He had just lost everything he thought defined him. He was unemployed, his future uncertain. And now, on his balcony, stood the most unexpected thing imaginable. He made a decision. He nodded slowly, carefully guiding the elderly alien away from the edge of the balcony toward his open apartment door. "It's okay," he said, his voice calm, even though he felt anything but calm. "Come inside. It's okay." He did not know if the translator would understand, but he hoped his tone would. He helped the tired being over the threshold and into the light of his quiet, ordinary apartment. The warm light from Jinwoo's apartment felt strange after the cool darkness of the balcony. The alien stood just inside the door, still and quiet. Its large dark eyes moved slowly around the room. It looked at the simple sofa, the low table, the kitchen area, and the small model of the palace on the table. It seemed to be studying everything, but its body showed only tiredness. Jinwoo realized he was still holding the being's arm. He let go gently. "Please," he said, pointing to the sofa. "Sit down." The alien looked at the sofa, then at Jinwoo. It seemed to understand the gesture. It moved forward with careful, slow steps. It lowered itself onto the cushions. The movement was stiff, like the joints hurt. A soft sigh, almost a hum, came from it. The silver-gray robe settled around its thin frame. Jinwoo stood there, unsure what to do next. His mind was a storm of questions. What was this? What did it want? Was there a fleet of ships coming? But looking at the frail being on his sofa, the panic faded a little. This was not a soldier. This was someone who needed to rest. "Are you hurt?" Jinwoo asked slowly. The alien looked at him. His translator brooch flickered again. The digital voice spoke, less broken now but still quiet. "No physical injury. Systems failed. The journey was long. This one is tired." The way it said "this one" sounded formal and old-fashioned. Jinwoo nodded, understanding the feeling of being very tired. "Okay, good. That's good." He shifted on his feet. "Can I get you something?" "Water." The alien's head tilted. "Water? To drink?" Jinwoo made a drinking motion with his hand. A soft light seemed to pass through the patterns on the alien's face. It was faint, like a ripple. "Hydration. Yes, please." Jinwoo went to his kitchen. His hands shook a little as he took a glass. He filled it with cool water from his filter. What did aliens drink? Was water safe? But the being had asked for it. He brought the glass over and held it out. The alien looked at the glass, then at its own hand. It had 3 long, slender fingers and a thumb. It reached out and took the glass carefully. His fingers were cool when they brushed Jinwoo's. It held the glass, studying the way the light shone through the water. Then it took a small sip, paused, then took another. The patterns on its skin glowed a bit more steadily. "It is quiet," the alien said, its translated voice thoughtful. "Quiet?" Jinwoo asked. "The water. In my home, the water sings with memories. This water is still. It is peaceful." It took another sip. Jinwoo didn't understand, but he nodded. He pulled over his desk chair and sat down, not too close. He wanted to give the being space. For a few minutes, they just sat in silence. The only sounds were the distant traffic and the hum of Jinwoo's refrigerator. The alien's eyes kept moving around the room. They stopped on the wooden model of Jiangbakgung Palace. "What is that?" it asked. "Oh, that." Jinwoo got up and brought the model to the coffee table. "It's a model, a small copy of a very old palace. A building where kings lived, a long time ago." The alien leaned forward. Its three-fingered hand reached out but stopped just before touching the tiny wooden roofs. "The lines, they are not straight," it observed. "They curve, like a hill or a wave." "Yes," Jinwoo said, surprised. "That's on purpose. It's part of the old style here. It's meant to look like it belongs with the mountains, not fight against them." "Belongs with," the alien repeated softly. It looked from the model to Jinwoo. "You made this?" "I did. A long time ago. I like building things." "You are a maker of places," the alien said. "It wasn't a question." "I was," Jinwoo said, and the sadness of the day washed back over him for a second. "I lost my job today. My work was to design buildings. Now I don't do that anymore." The alien looked at him. Its dark eyes were deep and calm. "A path ends. Another is not yet seen. It is a time of quiet." Turn back to the model. "This is a good thing to make. It holds respect." The simple words, spoken without pity, were strangely comforting. Jinwoo looked at the being with new curiosity. "What is your name?" "I am Jinwoo." The alien was silent for a moment. Its translator emitted a soft, complex series of tones. Then the flat voice said, "The sound is Kale. You may use this." "Mr. Kale," Jinwoo said. The alien, Mr. Kale, gave a slow, small nod. "That is acceptable." Jinwoo's phone buzzed again on the table. Suji's name flashed. Mr. Kale looked at the device with mild interest but no alarm. "I should answer that," Jinwoo said. "It is my sister. She will be worried." He picked up the phone. "Suji?" "Jinwoo. Finally. Are you okay? I heard about the layoffs at your company." Her voice was full of concern. "I'm okay," he said, looking at Mr. Kale, who was now gently tracing the curve of the model's roof with a fingertip. "Something happened." What happened?" Suji's nurse instincts sharpened her tone. "I can't really explain right now. I'm safe. I'm at home. I'm helping someone. They're lost." "Helping who? A colleague? Do you need me to come over?" "No." Jinwoo said it too quickly. He lowered his voice. "No, Unni. It's fine. They just need a place to rest for a little while. I'll call you tomorrow, I promise." There was a long pause on the line. "You're sure you're safe?" Jinwoo looked at the elderly alien admiring his wooden model. "Yes," he said, and he realized he meant it. "I'm sure. Don't worry." He ended the call and put the phone down. As he did, a new notification popped up on the screen. It was not from a normal number. The header read, "Galactic Cultural Exchange Directorate Priority Advisory." His blood went cold. He opened the message. "To the inhabitant of residence at the source of anomalous low-energy signal * remain calm. Do not engage the life form. Secure yourself in a separate room if possible. Official retrieval and first contact teams are en route. Estimated arrival, 7 hours. Jinwoo read the words twice. Do not engage. Secure yourself. He looked up from the bright screen. Mr. Kale had stopped looking at the model. He was watching Jinwoo. His dark eyes saw the worry on Jinwoo's face. He seemed to understand. "The ones who watch, they have sent a message," Mr. Kale said. His translated voice was quiet, with a hint of sadness. "They will say to stay away, that I am a problem, a risk." He looked down at his own hands, the faint light in his patterns pulsing slowly, like a weary heartbeat. "I only wish to see the quiet places before my light fades. My craft is old. It grew tired like me." Jinwoo looked at the official warning. Then he looked at the tired old being on his sofa, who liked the curve of a wooden roof and the quiet taste of water. The message talked about a life form and a risk. It did not talk about a person. Jinwoo made his choice. He held down the power button on his phone. The screen went black. He walked to his apartment's main control panel and pressed the button that disabled the location services for his smart home system. The room was quiet again, lit only by a soft lamp. He turned back to Mr. Kale. "They will be a long time," Jinwoo said. "You are welcome to rest here." Mr. Kale studied him for a long moment. The faint, constellation-like patterns on his face brightened just a little, a soft, warm gold instead of the pale blue they had been. It looked like a smile. "Thank you, Jinwoo," he said. The translated voice, for the first time, did not sound flat at all. The silence after turning off the phone felt heavy, but it was a clean kind of heavy. Jinwoo had made a decision. Now he had to live with it. He looked at Mr. Kale, who sat perfectly still on the sofa. The alien seemed to be listening to the new quiet in the room. "They think they are helping," Jinwoo said, almost to himself. He walked to the kitchen. "But they would just bring noise and bright lights. You look like you need sleep, not questions." Mr. Kale's head turned slowly to follow him. "Sleep is a good word. My people call it the inward journey. But yes, sleep." Jinwoo realized his guest had no bag, no supplies. "Do you need anything?" "A blanket. Temperature is sufficient," Mr. Kale said. His eyes drifted closed for a moment, then opened again, fighting the tiredness. "Your silence is a better comfort." Jinwoo nodded. He fetched a clean blanket from his closet anyway and placed it on the other end of the sofa, just in case. He then sat back in his chair. The excitement and fear were fading, leaving behind a strange, calm emptiness. Here he was in his ordinary apartment with an alien from the stars, and all they were doing was sitting. "You said you wished to see quiet places?" Jinwoo said after a while. "What does that mean?" Mr. Kale's fingers, resting on his knee, moved slightly. "For my people, when the long years grow heavy, we take a journey.
Åtvangelight pilgrimage.
We leave the busy worlds and the thought songs of our cities. We go to places where life is simple, where things are not built to talk, but just to be." He gestured weakly around the room. "Like this. Your water does not sing. Your walls do not whisper stories. It is still here. I wanted to feel stillness one more time." "Your craft brought you to my balcony," Jinwoo said. "That's not very still." A soft, bubbling sound came from Mr. Kale. It took Jinwoo a second to realize it was a laugh. The guidance system was old. It sought a simple energy signature. A life alone in a small space. "Found you. It seems it understood my wish better than I did." Jinwoo thought about that. A machine picking his quiet, lonely apartment out of a city of millions. It felt less like an accident and more like a strange kind of fate. "You are not afraid?" Mr. Kale asked. His large eyes were clear and direct. Jinwoo thought about it. "I was. On the balcony. But not now. You just seem lost. And tired. I know how that feels." "You lost your path today," Mr. Kale said, remembering their earlier talk. "Yes. Then we are both between places," Mr. Kale said. The idea seemed to comfort him. He relaxed deeper into the cushions. A good time for quiet. They sat without talking for what felt like a long time. Jinwoo's stomach growled loudly, breaking the silence. He felt his face grow warm. "Sorry. I haven't eaten since lunch." "Eat," Mr. Kale said. "Do not stop your life for me." Jinwoo went to the kitchen. He had some leftover habakjuk, a simple pumpkin porridge his sister had brought over. He warmed it in a pot on the stove. The warm, sweet smell filled the small apartment. Mr. Kale's nose, or what seemed to be a nose, twitched. He sat up a little. "That scent. It is not in my memory database. It is warm." "It's pumpkin porridge," Jinwoo said, bringing 2 bowls to the low table. He put one in front of Mr. Kale and handed him a spoon. "It's soft, easy to eat. You can try it if you want." Mr. Kale looked at the spoon, then at the bowl. He picked up the spoon clumsily, his 3 fingers figuring out the grip. He scooped a tiny amount of the golden porridge and brought it to his mouth. He froze. The patterns on his face and the backs of his hands suddenly bloomed. Soft waves of amber and rose gold flowed under his skin, moving from his head down to his shoulders. His eyes closed. Jinwoo stared, worried he had hurt him. Is it bad? Mr. Kale's eyes opened. The colors continued to pulse gently.
No.
It is a memory. A memory? Not my own, Mr. Kale said, his voice full of wonder. The pumpkin, a plant that grew in quiet soil under a slow sun, the care that prepared it. He looked at the simple bowl. You share your food. This is a powerful thing. You share a memory you did not even know you had. He took another, larger bite. The warm colors on his skin glowed a little brighter. Jinwoo ate his own porridge, watching the alien experience a simple meal. It was the most fascinating thing he had ever seen. His problems with his job felt very small and far away. When they finished, Mr. Kale looked at his empty bowl with something like respect. Thank you. That was a gentle gift. Jinwoo took the bowls to the sink. As he washed them, he noticed something. A part of the clasp holding Mr. Kale's robe together at the shoulder was broken. A thin thread was dangling, and a small piece of silvery metal was hanging loose. It wasn't important, but it looked like it might annoy him. Jinwoo dried his hands and went to a drawer. He found a small roll of clear tape and a spool of gray thread. He walked back and knelt near the sofa. Your clasp is broken, he said, pointing at Mr. Kale looked down. Ah, yes. It has been so for many journeys. It is no matter. It might snag. Can I fix it? Just quickly. Mr. Kale seemed surprised. He nodded slowly. You may. Jinwoo's hands were good with small, careful work. He had built model palaces after all. He gently pressed the tiny piece of metal back into place. It wouldn't hold, so he cut a tiny piece of tape, a small dot, and secured it. Then, seeing the loose thread, he took a needle and with 3 quick stitches, he tied the thread off so it wouldn't unravel anymore. It was a rough human repair. It looked out of place on the strange, shimmering fabric. There, Jinwoo said, sitting back. It's not pretty, but it will hold. Mr. Kale lifted his arm and turned his head to look at the repair. He touched the tiny dot of tape with one fingertip. He traced the clumsy gray stitches. He did not say thank you. Instead, he looked at Jinwoo, and the patterns on his face settled into a steady, warm, golden light. It was a calm and deep light. You are a curious kind of person, Jinwoo, Mr. Kale said. You see a break and you mend it, not because you must, but because you can. Jinwoo shrugged, a little embarrassed. It's nothing. It is not nothing, Mr. Kale said firmly. His translated voice was soft but clear. On my world, we build great machines to fix great things. We send songs across stars to heal broken orbits. But a broken clasp? It would be discarded. It is too small to notice. He looked directly at Jinwoo. You notice the small thing. That is a rare quality. The words sat with Jinwoo. He had spent his career trying to design big, important buildings. And here was an alien from an advanced civilization, telling him his most valuable act today was fixing a clasp and sharing porridge. Outside, the city night deepened. The advisory said 7 hours. Time was passing. But here, in the lamplight, with the quiet alien on his sofa, time felt different. Felt slow and full and strangely peaceful. Jinwoo was not waiting for the authorities anymore. He was just keeping company with a lonely traveler, and in doing so, he was forgetting his own loneliness. The night grew older. The sounds from the street below became fewer. Jinwoo offered Mr. Kale the blanket, and this time the alien accepted, pulling the soft fabric around his shoulders. He looked small and ancient wrapped in the ordinary blue cotton. Jinwoo was not tired. His mind was awake, alive with the strangeness of the evening. He sat in his chair, and Mr. Kale sat on the sofa. The silence between them was not empty. It was comfortable. Your world, Jinwoo began hesitantly. Is it loud? Mr. Kale's golden-lit patterns pulsed softly in the dim room. Loud? Not with sound as you know it. It is loud with meaning. Every stone is made to hold a memory. Every path is made to tell a story. The air hums with the thought songs of millions, past and present. It is beautiful, but it is much. For an old one, it is sometimes too much. So you come here for quiet, Jinwoo said. For the spaces between the notes, Mr. Kale corrected gently. Your world has many notes. Your machines, your voices, your music. But it also has spaces. This room. The breath between your words. The peace in your bowl of food. On my world, we fill all the spaces. We fear the quiet. You live with it. You understand it. Jinwoo thought about his own life. The constant pressure to do more, to be more. The noise of his own worries. I don't know if I understand it. I think I forget to listen to the quiet. Yet you created it for me tonight, Mr. Kale said. That is the understanding. After another pause, Jinwoo had a thought. He got up and went to his laptop on the desk. He opened it but did not connect to the internet. He opened a folder of his own photos. You said you wanted to see quiet places. These are places from my country. They are quiet in a different way. He turned the screen to show Mr. Kale. The first picture was of an ancient Hanok village. The curved clay roofs lines peaceful under a light-snowed MR. Kale leaned forward. His eyes widened. Ah, it is like your small model, but real. The lines, they do not shout. They invite. They say, rest here. He looked from the screen to Jinwoo's face. You made your model from this? Yes, I always liked that feeling. The feeling of a place that belongs. Yes, Mr. Kale whispered. Belonging, not imposing. Jinwoo clicked to another photo. A simple wooden bridge in a deep green forest, over a still stream. Then a wide, empty beach at sunrise. Then the view from a mountain temple, clouds lying softly in the valleys below. With each picture, Mr. Kale grew quieter, but more focused. The light on his skin softened to a pale, silvery blue, like moonlight on water. He did not speak for a long time after the last picture. Your world holds its breath in these places, he finally said. You capture the breath. This is a good thing to do. They are just photos, Jinwoo said. They are held moments, Mr. Kale said. My people, we would capture the feeling of the moment in a crystal song. It would be beautiful, but anyone who heard it would feel exactly what I felt. Your pictures, they are quiet. They let me find my own feeling inside them. That is a kinder magic. He shifted, and the blanket slipped a little. The repaired clasp was visible. May I share a memory with you? Not with a machine. With words. Yes, please, Jinwoo said, closing the laptop.mr. Kale's eyes looked at a point far away, beyond the walls of the apartment. On my twilight pilgrimage, before my craft grew tired, I visited a small moon. It had no people. It had only glass fields. Glass fields. Great plains where the sand had been melted by ancient impacts and had cooled into sheets of clear glass, smooth as still water. I stood there as the star set. The light from the sunset, it did not glow on the surface. It traveled through the glass. The whole plain lit up from within, mile after mile, with fire the color of your pumpkin. Then it faded slowly to blue, then to violet, then to black. And when it was black, you could see all the stars beneath your feet, reflected in the glass, as well as above you. You stood in the middle of the universe. There was no sound, only the light, coming and going. A silent breath. Mr. Kale stopped speaking. The memory seemed to hang in the air of the small apartment. Jinwoo could almost see it, not with the detail of a hologram, but with the feeling of the words, the vast, silent beauty of it. That sounds amazing, Jinwoo said, his voice low. It was a quiet place, Mr. Kale said, coming back to the present. But it was a lonely quiet. Your quiet here, Jinwoo. It is a shared quiet. That is a different thing. A better thing for an old heart. Jinwoo did not know what to say. He felt a deep sense of honor. This being had seen wonders across the stars, and he was thanking Jinwoo for his apartment and his porridge. A low, soft chime echoed in the room. It did not come from Jinwoo's phone or computer. It came from Mr. Kale himself. A faint, green light pulsed once on his translator brooch.mr. Kale looked down at it. The peaceful light on his skin flickered, dimmed. They are closer. The ones who are coming. Their ships talk to each other. My brooch can hear their search song. They will be here soon. The spell was broken. The calm of the night was thinning. The real world, with its rules and its authorities, was coming back. Jinwoo felt a spike of anxiety. What will happen? Mr. Kale arranged the blanket neatly on his lap. His movements were slow, dignified. They will be correct. They will be careful. The guardian Veln will be angry that I caused worry. The human liaison will be concerned about rules. They will take me and my old craft and they will go. He looked at Jinwoo. They will likely speak to you about laws, about the danger you were in. They will not understand that the only danger was to my loneliness, and you ended that. I'm not sorry I let you in, Jinwoo said, and he knew it was true. I am not sorry I came, Mr. Kale replied. They sat again in silence, but the quality had changed. It was no longer the deep, endless quiet of shared peace. It was the waiting quiet that comes before an ending. Jinwoo looked at the elderly alien, trying to memorize the gentle light on his strange skin, the calm depth of his eyes. He knew with certainty that he would never have a night like this again. Outside the window, the first faint hint of gray light began to touch the sky. Dawn was still an hour away, but the deepest dark was passing. The 7 hours were almost up. Jinwoo thought about the message. Do not engage. He was glad he had ignored it. This quiet night of shared photos and spoken memories was worth any trouble that was coming. For the first time since he lost his job, he felt like he had done something that truly mattered. Not for his career, but for another soul. The gray light at the window grew stronger, turning the world outside from black to a soft, cool blue. The quiet in the apartment was different now. It was thin, like a sheet of ice waiting to crack. Mr. Kale sat very still, his eyes closed, the patterns on his skin dim and motionless. He was either sleeping or conserving his energy. Jinwoo watched him, feeling a knot of worry tighten in his stomach. Then, a new sound came. It was not the usual city morning noise. It was a low hum so deep it was felt in the bones more than heard with the ears. It vibrated through the floor, through the sofa. The air in the room seemed to grow heavy. Mr. Kale's eyes opened. He did not look alarmed, only resigned. They are here, he said, his translated voice flat. Jinwoo stood up and walked to the balcony window. Outside, the sky was clear, but hovering just above the street, silent and sleek, was a ship. It was larger than Mr. Kale's little craft, shaped like a smooth, black teardrop. It blocked the view of the building opposite. No lights flashed on it. It was just there, a dark, official presence. People on the street below had stopped to point their phones up at it. A moment later, a sharp buzz came from Jinwoo's apartment door, not the gentle ring of a visitor, but an insistent, demanding sound. Jinwoo took a deep breath. He looked at Mr. Kale, who gave him a slow, small nod. It was time. He walked to the door and opened it. Two figures stood in the hallway. The first was a human woman. She was dressed in a simple, dark gray suit that looked both professional and like it could be armor. Her hair was tied back neatly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, scanning everything behind Jinwoo in a second. She held a small, glowing tablet. The second figure was an alien, tall and slender, with skin of a deep, matte charcoal gray. He wore a form-fitting uniform of a dark blue, with subtle silver lines. His face was angular, his eyes a solid, pale silver with no visible pupil. He stood stiffly, his hands behind his back. He looked past Jinwoo into the apartment, and his expression was one of clear, stern disapproval. Jinwoo Park? The woman asked, her voice cool and efficient. Yes. I am Agent Mira, Galactic Cultural Exchange Directorate. This is Guardian Veln of the Velos Protectorate. She did not offer to shake hands. We are here for the pilgrim, Kale. Step aside, please. Her tone left no room for argument. It was the voice of someone who handled problems, not people. Jinwoo moved back, and the two of them entered his apartment. Guardian Veln moved first, his long strides carrying him quickly across the room to where Mr. Kale still sat on the sofa. Veln began speaking immediately, a series of rapid, clicking, scolding sounds. His voice was hard and impatient. Mr. Kale looked up at him, his own face showing no emotion, but the light in his patterns had gone out completely. Agent Mira stayed near Jinwoo, her eyes still moving around the room. She noted the empty bowls on the table, the blanket on the sofa, the disabled home panel. Her tablet gave a soft ping. "You received the advisory to not engage," she stated. "It was not a question." "I did," Jinwoo said, "and you chose to ignore it. You disabled your location transponder. You created an uncontrolled first contact scenario." She said each word clearly, as if listing crimes. "He was old and tired," Jinwoo said, his voice firmer than he felt. "He wasn't a threat. He just needed a place to sit down." "That is not for you to determine, Mr. Park." Agent Mira finally looked directly at him. Her gaze was analytical, like she was studying a flawed experiment. "The Velos are a reclusive, psychologically complex species. Their needs are not human needs. Your actions, however well-meaning, could have caused him profound distress." Across the room, Veln's lecture seemed to be ending. He reached down and took Mr. Kale's arm, not roughly but firmly, and began to help him stand from the sofa. Mr. Kale rose slowly, his movements stiff. He looked small next to the tall guardian. "The pilgrimage is terminated," Veln said, his own translator providing a cold, formal version of his words. "Your sentimentality has caused a significant protocol violation. You will return for evaluation." Mr. Kale said nothing. He just nodded, looking down at the floor. The peaceful, glowing being from the night was gone. In his place was a frail old creature being scolded. The sight filled Jinwoo with a sudden, hot anger. It wasn't right as Veln began to guide Mr. Kale toward the door. The elderly alien's foot caught slightly on the edge of the rug. He stumbled just a tiny bit. Veln held his arm tighter, steadying him with an annoyed click of his tongue. That was when Mr. Kale stopped. He gently but firmly pulled his arm from Veln's grip. He straightened his back as much as he could. He turned, not to Veln, but to look at Jinwoo. Then, slowly and with great dignity, he turned his body to face Jinwoo fully. He bowed. It was a deep, formal bow from the waist. His head lowered, his arms at his sides. The shimmering fabric of his robe settled around him. He held the position for 3 full seconds in the silent, tense room. Then he straightened. The patterns on his face and hands were not the joyful gold from before, nor the dim gray of resignation. They were a steady, clear white light, like the heart of a star. It was a light of pure, undeniable clarity. He spoke, and his translated voice was not flat. It was strong, and it filled the room. "This one," Mr. Kale began, using the formal term for himself, "was not lost. I was found." He looked at Guardian Veln, then at Agent Mira. "You track a vessel's signal. You follow the noise of a broken machine. You did not think to track the resonance of compassion. You were looking for a problem to solve." He turned his white-lit gaze back to Jinwoo. He saw a person to help. Agent Mira opened her mouth to speak, but Mr. Kale continued, his voice like a calm, deep bell. "You speak of his violations. Let me speak of his actions. He saw weariness and offered rest. He saw hunger and shared the memory of his soil and sun. He saw a broken clasp. Here, Mr. Kale touched the mended spot on his robe, his fingers resting on the tiny gray stitches. And he mended it, not because it was important, but because it was broken, and he had the means to fix it. Mr. Kale took a step toward the center of the room, his light casting soft shadows on the walls. The Galactic Council seeks great monuments. It measures worth in data and stability. Today, in this small human space, I found a monument greater than any crystal spire. I found it in a bowl of quiet food. I found it in a shared silence. I found it in a mended thread. He looked at Agent Mira, his white light unwavering. You are concerned with what he did wrong. I am here to tell you what he did right. He ended a lonely journey with companionship. He showed me that the most advanced technology in this room was not in your ship or your tablet. It was in his human heart. The room was utterly silent. The hum from the ship outside seemed to fade away. Agent Mira stared, her professional composure cracked by sheer surprise. Guardian Veln stood rigid, his silver eyes wide-Mr. Kale gave one last, small nod to Jinwoo. The white light softened back to the warm gold from the night before. Thank you, Jinwoo, for the quiet, for the belonging. Then he turned and walked slowly on his own, past the stunned Guardian Veln and out the open apartment door into the hallway. He did not need to be guided anymore. For a long moment, no one in the apartment moved. The echo of Mr. Kale's words seemed to hang in the air, brighter and more solid than the morning light now streaming through the window. Agent Mira was the first to break the stillness. She blinked, her sharp eyes losing their analytical edge for just a second, replaced by a look of pure, deep thought. She looked at the empty space where Mr. Kale had stood. Then her gaze traveled to the sofa, the folded blanket, the two clean bowls sitting side by side on the low table. Her expression was no longer that of an agent assessing a violation. It was the look of someone who had just been shown a truth they had overlooked. Guardian Veln stood by the door. His stiff posture had not changed, but his face had. The stern disapproval was gone, wiped away. In its place was a kind of stunned confusion. He looked at his own hand, the one that had gripped Mr. Kale's arm, as if it had done something wrong. He looked back into the hallway where the elderly Velos had disappeared, then back into Jinwoo's simple apartment. The clicking sound he made was slow and quiet, not a scold, but a question. Jinwoo himself felt unsteady. The heat of his earlier anger was gone, washed away by the cool, clear light of Mr. Kale's speech. He felt exposed, as if something private and true inside him had been named aloud in front of strangers. Agent Mira let out a slow breath. She looked down at her tablet, its screen still glowing with protocols and warnings. With a deliberate motion, she pressed a button on its side. The screen went dark. She lowered the device to her side. Mr. Park, she said. Her voice was different. It was still professional, but the ice was gone. It was measured, thoughtful. I believe a reassessment is required. She walked a few steps into the room, her eyes taking in the details anew. She stopped at the table, looking at the small wooden model of the palace. He spoke of this? Of the lines that belong? Yes, Jinwoo said, his throat dry. He said they didn't shout. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Agent Mira's lips. That sounds like a Velo's elder. They value harmony above all. She turned to face him. My report will state that the pilgrim was found in stable condition, having received benign, non-interfering shelter. No protocols were breached that resulted in harm. In fact, she paused, choosing her words carefully. In fact, the outcome appears to have been psychologically beneficial for the pilgrim. His resonance signatures, as he called them, were reportedly positive. Jinwoo just nodded, not knowing what that meant, but understanding the tone. He wasn't in trouble. Guardian Veln finally moved. He took a step into the room, his silver eyes fixed on Jinwoo. The mend, he said, his translated voice much softer than before. You performed a physical repair on his travel robe? It was just a clasp. It was broken. I had tape and thread, Jinwoo said, shrugging weakly. Veln was silent for a long time. It is a insignificant thing. A clasp. He seemed to be turning the idea over in his mind. We would have provided a new robe, a better one. It is our way. To replace, not to mend such a small thing. He looked directly at Jinwoo. He valued your mend more than a replacement. This is a concept my people have forgotten. We fix only that which is grand and essential. We have forgotten that to fix the small thing is to honor the whole. The tall alien gave a stiff, but clearly respectful, nod of his head. Then, without another word, he turned and left, following the path Mr. Kale had taken. Agent Mira and Jinwoo were alone. The hum of the ship outside lessened, then faded completely. It had likely departed with its passengers. "They will take him home," Agent Mira said, following Jinwoo's look to the window. "His pilgrimage will be recorded as complete, and I suspect his final report will be unique." She walked back toward the door, then stopped. She reached into a pocket of her suit and pulled out a simple, white business card. She held it out to Jinwoo. He took it. It was smooth, with only a name and a string of numbers. Agent Hannah Mira, GCD Liaison. "My direct line," she said. "What you did here, it wasn't protocol, Mr. Park. But it may have been something more important." She seemed to wrestle with her own training for a second. "The Galactic Cultural Exchange Directorate has a problem. A quiet one. We host scholars, artists, philosophers from dozens of species. We give them the best suites, the most advanced translation tech, tours of our grandest achievements. And many of them, they leave unfulfilled. They call it the resonance gap. They experience everything, but feel nothing. They are data points, not guests." She nodded toward the sofa. "He found more resonance in your one night of quiet than most of them find in a standard tour. He called it the architecture of a noble soul." She met Jinwoo's eyes. "We don't know how to build that. But you just did it without even trying." Jinwoo looked at the card in his hand. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? I am not offering you a job as a diplomat, Mr. Park. You would hate it," she said, and this time her smile was clearer. "But we need consultants. People who understand that the heart of hospitality isn't in the grandeur of the offering, but in the truth of the welcome. We need to design better arrivals. Not the logistics, the feeling." She opened the apartment door. The ordinary hallway looked surreal after everything. "Think about it. No pressure. You have your own path to find. But if you are interested in helping others find a moment of quiet in a noisy universe, call me." With a final nod, Agent Mira left, closing the door softly behind her. Jinwoo stood in the middle of his apartment. It was silent again, but the silence was not empty. It was full of the memory of the night, the shared porridge, the spoken memory of glass fields, the white light of a formal bow. He looked around. The blanket needed to be put away. The bowls needed to be put in the cupboard. The world was returning to normal. But he was different. He picked up the white card. He then walked to his table and picked up the other thing sitting there. The termination notice from his old job. He looked at one, then the other. One paper represented an ending. The other card hinted at a beginning he could never have imagined. He placed both items side by side on the table. The sun was fully up now, warming the room. The city was awake, and so was he. For the first time since he lost his dream, Jinwoo did not feel lost. He felt like he was standing on the threshold of something very, very quiet and very, very new. 1 week later, Jinwoo Park stood in a new office. It was not in a tall, gleaming tower. It was in a smaller building in a quieter part of Seoul. The office belonged to a design firm called Harmony Space. They did not build skyscrapers. They designed community centers, small libraries, peaceful gardens, and homes for aging people. Their work was about how a place felt, not just how it looked. Jinwoo wore a simple, clean shirt. He sat across from the hiring manager, a woman named Ms. Choi. She had a kind face and sharp eyes that noticed details. "Your portfolio from your old firm is impressive, Mr. Park," Ms. Choi said, looking at the plans for modern apartments on her tablet. "Very sleek, very efficient." Jinwoo nodded. "Thank you. But, if I may," he leaned forward slightly. "Those projects were about maximum use of space, about fitting more units into a plan. The work I am more interested in now is about the opposite." Ms. Choi looked up, interested. "Go on." "It's about the space between the units," Jinwoo said, his voice growing more confident. "The hallway that feels welcoming, not just like a passage. The window in a community room that frames a single tree, making it part of the room. It's about designing the quiet moments. The places where nothing is supposed to happen so that something real can. He was not repeating lines he had practiced. He was saying what he had learned. He was talking about Mr. Kale's visit, without saying the name. Ms. Choi listened carefully. She put her tablet down. That is a very specific philosophy. What changed your perspective? Jinwoo thought about the past week. The strange calm that had stayed with him. I helped someone who was lost, he said simply. And in doing that, I understood that the most important design is the design of a moment. Of safety. Of peace. A building is just a shell. What matters is what it allows to happen inside. Ms. Choi smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile. Mr. Park, that is exactly what we try to do here. It is not always glamorous work. But it is good work. She stood up and offered her hand. We would like you to join our team. A wave of relief and quiet joy washed over Jinwoo. He shook her hand firmly. Thank you. I would be honored. Later that afternoon, Jinwoo met his sister, Suji, at a cafe near her hospital. She was still in her blue nursing scrubs. She saw the look on his face before he even sat down. You got it? She said, grinning. I got it, he confirmed, smiling back. I knew you would. Tell me everything. As he described the interview and the new job, her eyes shone with pride. Then her expression turned more serious. And now, tell me the rest. The thing you wouldn't tell me over the phone last week. The someone you were helping. Jinwoo stirred his coffee. He looked out the window at the people walking by. How could he explain it? He decided to tell the truth, or a part of it. It was an old man, Jinwoo said. A traveler. He was very lost and very tired. He showed up at my place in the middle of the night. All he needed was a place to sit down, a bit of food, someone to not be afraid of him. Suji, whose job was to care for people at their most vulnerable, understood this language perfectly. Her face softened. That's a big thing to do, Jinwoo, especially when you were hurting yourself. I think helping him is what stopped the hurt, Jinwoo replied. He saw things in a different way. He made me see my own home, my own work, differently. He said I noticed small things. He said that was a rare quality. It is, Suji said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. It really is. When Jinwoo returned to his apartment, the evening sun was shining through the balcony window. The space still felt different. It was no longer just where he lived after a failed day. It was the place where a quiet miracle had happened. He saw the white business card from Agent Mira on his table, next to the now crumpled termination notice. He picked up the card. He thought about her words, the resonance gap. Scholars feeling like data points. He thought about what he had to offer. Not grand theories about alien psychology. Just the simple steps. The quiet welcome. The offered drink. The act of listening instead of interrogating. The mending of a small, broken thing. He took out his phone. He didn't call. He sent a short text message to the number on the card. This is Jinwoo Park. If you still need help understanding the quiet part of welcome, I would like to try. The reply came almost immediately, just 3 words. We do. Welcome. Jinwoo put the phone down. He walked out onto his balcony. The sky was turning the color of a deep bruise, with streaks of orange and pink. Stars would soon be visible. Somewhere up there, Mr. Kale was home, hopefully wrapped in his mended robe, remembering a quiet night on Earth. Jinwoo's old dream had been to build monuments that scraped the sky. He had lost that dream, but in helping one lost traveler, he had accidentally built something else. A small, invisible bridge. It was a bridge made of empathy, of porridge, of clumsy stitches, and shared silence. It was a bridge that started on his balcony and reached all the way to the stars. He was not a galactic hero. He was just a man who had helped a lost elder. But now, he had a new job designing quiet spaces on Earth. And maybe, in a small way, he could help design quiet arrivals for other lost travelers from far away. The city lights began to twinkle on below him, and the first stars appeared above. Jinwoo took a deep, quiet breath. He was not lost anymore. He was exactly where he was meant to be.